Hello, everyone. Welcome back to A Plus Parents. And with me today is one of our students. And this student, her name, she goes by Lilli. So I'm going to make sure I say Lillianna Dorsett. She's with us today. She's a 10th grader. She lives in California. And how Lilliana or Lilli does her homeschooling is a little different if you don't live in California. So she's part of a public charter school. And in California, it's super cool what they do. So in California, public charter schools actually set themselves up where they can accommodate and work with people that are wanting to work from home. They're homeschoolers. So she gets to be homeschooled but still have resources from her public school, which is super cool. And we'll have her share a little bit more about that. As a 10th grader, she started homeschooling a couple of years ago when she started 8th grade. And she's a swimmer. So she's actually going through our NCAA track and our live classes. And she's trying still to kind of figure out if that's something that she's going to head to when she does go to college, whether she wants to swim or not. But she's been doing it now for a while, which is really, really good. So first of all, Lilli, welcome to the podcast, and thanks for making your day work to be here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, super cool. Okay, so let's just jump right in, right? So here you are, and you're doing, you're homeschooled, and you're doing all your courses, and you're doing our geometry course, and then you also participate in. Everybody calls it, you call it the ASU Digital Prep Program, but for people that don't know the ASU acronym, and it's Arizona State University. So you're really on a college prep track for all the things you're doing and going through our program as well as working with the ASU program, right? So you've got all this stuff going on in school, but tell us a little bit about. We're going to come back to the, how how Heartland works at your charter school that you work with, but let's find out a little more about you first. So, tell us, what kind of hobbies are you into? I know you're a swimmer, right? What else are you into?
Yeah, I crochet, I cook, bake, and then I also volunteer at a local horse rescue.
Oh, awesome! What do you do at the horse rescue?
I usually will start off my morning by cleaning pens, and then I'll move on to brushing the horses and just spending time with them.
Wow! Oh, that's awesome. Okay, do you have a favorite horse where you do this?
Ooh, they're always changing, like the horses that are there, but one of my favorites was this horse named Ramona. She was super sweet, just angel.
Aw, that's awesome. All right, so you're outside, you're doing, working with animals, and you're cooking, crocheting, you got all this stuff going on, plus you swim. What's your swimming schedule like now? I know in the summertime it's probably even more, but what do you do right now during the school year for your swim practices?
Yeah, so we swim from 6:30 to 8, so only an hour and a half. That's the only we can't get any more full time. The pool's pretty strict, but yeah, so we're swimming. We don't typically leave the pool deck till like past 8 o'clock, so we're up late.
Gotcha. Yeah. And so, oftentimes a lot of people that swim, right? They, when you say 6:30 to 8, and some people are thinking, oh, you got off easy. You only have to be there 6:30 in the morning, but you're doing this in the afternoon at 6:30 at night. So you're doing 6:30 to 8 o'clock at night. So you're not having to do like, do you have other friends or have you heard people that they swim and they're at the pool at like 4 or 5, 6 in the morning?
Yeah.
That's good. Wow. I don't know. For me, that would be tough. I don't know. So first of all, I think the water would be cold. I wouldn't like that at all.
Oh, yeah.
But then just that much exercise first thing in the morning would be a little too much for me. So, in cooking, what kind of things do you like to cook?
Gosh, I like to cook a lot of things. Yesterday I made a soup. I like My mom loves it whenever I make, like, different roasted vegetables. The other day I made bread, I make muffins, cookies, just all sorts of stuff.
Oh, that's great. Once you're a baker slash chef, so that's really great. Awesome. You kind of got it all going on. So, let's kind of look at how the transition from being going to public or private school and how you made that transition to homeschooling. So tell us a little bit about what was going on and how old were you and what was happening that you made that move from your traditional school you're at to becoming a homeschooler.
Yeah, so I started I've always been in private school, I've never gone this was being in charter school is the closest I've been to being in a public school because it's technically a public school, but I'm still at home. But I've always been at a a private school, and in 7th grade, I, um I met this friend and she was homeschooled all her like, basically all her life. So, um, my mom talked with her mom, and they thought, like, that it would probably be, like, a good idea to maybe, like, switch to, homeschool. So, we had kind of decided, like, halfway through the school year that I'd switch just because it seemed like something that would work for me, and especially considering, the current school situation because we were at the school we were at, it was very there was a lot of busy work, like, I felt like there wasn't a lot that we were really learning, it was more of just, like, how much work can you get done during the day so that you can, like, maybe not have homework at night or something, so,
Right.
there was a lot of busy work, so then we decided, "Oh, we'll, like, switch to homeschool, I can go more at my own pace," and then we knew it'd probably work for me just because 'cause I'm self-motivated to do my homework. So but then COVID ended up happening, so everyone was at home. So, my 8th grade year was like my first official year of homeschooling.
Wow. Okay. So it was funny because, you were already thinking about homeschooling before COVID happened. We have a lot of people, that have discovered homeschooling because COVID happened and they got home and they're like, oh my gosh, I can do this from home. But you were already kind of on that path and thinking that way. And then you got a little taste of being at home while you were still part of the private school, but you couldn't go to school. So you're at home. And then you found Heartland. So when you were looking for the different charter school programs, and for people that aren't familiar with how Heartland does what they do, what Heartland does as a school, which is super cool that they are able to do this in California, and there's probably more states starting to do this now as well, is that Heartland is able to bring a lot of they have teachers that work with their students, and the teachers then become, and they call it, it's kind of interesting. So they call them an HST, and HST stands for homeschool teacher. So they're actually working from, use the acronym, which fits right in. But then those teachers get to work with you. And tell us a little bit about like your teacher. I know Miss Rhodes, and I actually have a chance to meet her from time to time. We do some workshops together. So tell me about what it's like when you get to work with Miss Rhodes, and how does she support your family for you for doing your homeschooling?
Yeah, so she is my HST, as you said. She communicates with us via Google Classroom. She has all of her families in a big Google Classroom, and so usually in the morning she'll send out um, a class announcement with all of the reminders and things for that day. And then we'll submit our attendance and say like what activities we're doing today. And she's just so then once a month we'll do a Zoom or we'll meet up with her in person and we'll just go over like how everything's going, what I'm learning, that sort of thing. So, and if you're needing help with something, they're always there to like go to them and get help if you need something.
That's awesome. Well, and we work with several charter schools in California, and it's really cool. And one of the things that I've noticed is that when people make that move, and like you made the move from private school to homeschooling through Heartland. But one of the things that I think is really great is that you're taking geometry this year, and if you were taking geometry at a private school, they would say, okay, you're in geometry, and here's the course you're going to use. But as a homeschooler and working through Heartland, even through Heartland, you get to say what curriculum you want to use, which I think is really great. So when you're deciding on the curriculums you want to work with, and that's how you found the ASU digital prep program that you can work with in our program. How do you and your family, how do you come up with what courses you want to do, like the curriculums that you want to use?
Yeah, so Heartland has a big course catalog with lots of different courses to choose from. And for me, it was looking for something that was NCAA approved, and there was quite a few courses that were like that. They also have things where you can choose to do live classes, you can choose to be completely self-paced. There's all sorts of different courses for each individual student and their learning needs, which is really cool.
Wow. Yeah, it's great. It's great because then you get to pick, you get to see which courses. You said you're self motivated, right? And I think being a swimmer really gives you a lot of training in how to push yourself and how to be self-motivated. And speaking of swimming, what do you like to swim? What are your what do you call them? The events you do?
Yeah. Yeah, so I do a lot of, breaststroke and long distance free, so my best events are probably the 2 breast and I don't know, probably the mile.
Wow, you swim a mile? Oh
Yeah.
my goodness, that's amazing. Wow. So, okay, you're in the water an hour and a half a day where you're training in the swimming. Do you have to do other training outside of that too?
Yeah, so we used to do, we swimmers call it dry land because 'cause we're not in the water, which is typically comprised of, like, weightlifting and things like that, where you're doing exercises outside of the pool that are gonna help you in the pool.
Wow, that's great. So, when you look at being busy, you're busy because not only are you just swimming that hour and a half, but now you're doing your weight training or whatever it is that you're doing to keep dry land, your dry land training.
Yeah.
I like that. That's a cool way to say that. So you're doing a dry land training, you're managing your school day, and then you're still doing all the things where you get to work with the horses and you're back to the things you like to do is cooking and crocheting and those kinds of things. So, you know, knowing that you've got a lot to do, right? And that you come up with that lifestyle. How do you, you know, how does that help you knowing you have so much to do? How does that help you better manage your time?
Yeah, so, like, with, when I whenever I have, like because obviously I have a lot of things, um, I've definitely had to learn how to manage my time, the especially, like, with school and swim, those 2 take a lot of my time, um, but it's definitely been, like, trial and error to kinda learn, like, what should I prioritize, what fits in where, um, like, I know that school, I do best in the morning, training better at night. So it's been there's been a lot of learning to just figure out like how to manage it all, but that's definitely been really useful.
It's really great. So, because sometimes we say, okay, so time management looks like this. Here's my schedule, and 8 to 9 every day, I'm going to do this part. This part of the day, 9 to 10 is this part. But you really looked at it from looking to see what worked best for you in your day, and then you schedule it around that. So, like if school for you is better in the morning, right? And then some of your physical activities are at night. That's awesome. So I think it's really great because oftentimes we just think we're going to have to just make it work, but there are some people that for them they need to get up and be physical in the morning before they start to do their coursework or their schoolwork or whatever that they're looking at. So I think that's really really awesome. So good for you that you ever that's it's great because you're looking at it from creating something that works for you and you're testing it, you're experimenting with what works first, which I think is really really great. So I'm taking a guess that your mom probably supports you quite a bit in this. How does she help you with managing time and all the different things you're doing? Plus, she's probably driving you around a few of these places too, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah, my mom both of my parents are very supportive, especially my mom. I don't like they're always there whenever I need help with an assignment. My mom definitely does a lot of the driving, chauffeuring us around from swim practice, back home, all over the place. So I'm very thankful for her and just her always like helping whenever I need help with different assignments or either just helping go places.
well, now, all right. So you're counting on mom for transportation, right? Um,
Yeah.
but she doesn't always know where you're headed or where you're going. Or sometimes maybe she does. I don't know. She keeps track of your schedule, but I have a feeling
Mhm.
you keep track of your schedule. And when you have a lot to do, and you got, and sometimes I know people they see, they look at their day and they're like, oh, I have all this to do. And they get overwhelmed. And oftentimes we'll find people that they have so much to do that they end up not getting anything done because what's in front of them is so much to do. Right. So when you're looking at on a day where you see, and maybe every day is like that, where you see that you have a lot to do, where do you start? How do you know where to start for yourself?
Yeah. This is definitely something that I've come across kind of el- every now and then, like the, oh my gosh, there's so much. How am I going to get it done? So I always start with everything that you need to get done. just write it down. Doesn't have to be in any particular order, just write everything down on a list and start choosing the things that are most important and what needs to get done. Um, because sometimes you might find that some of those things were not that important, they can be waited on. Um, I also find that it helps to write down how long each task is going to take and how long you have to get everything done. So that you can kind of piece it together almost like a little puzzle to get the most amount done in whatever time span.
Oh, that's really good. Okay, so, sometimes people are like look at school, right? And you're looking at your schoolwork and the things that you're working on. And when you look at the way that that looks, and you can see that there's all these things to do and you're busy and you've got everything going on. And maybe there's some things that you want to be doing a little bit later in the day, but you got to get that
Yeah.
schoolwork done first, right? So what tips do you have for people? Like, what is it that you do for how to get your schoolwork done, especially on those days when there's a lot to do?
Yeah. So with schoolwork, I find that it really helps whenever you kind of follow I'm sure that some people have probably heard of this where you work for 20 minutes and then take a 10-minute break. Or some people work for 20 minutes, take a 20-minute break. Just so then because sometimes if you start an assignment and then halfway through you go, this isn't that fun. So I'm gonna go do something else. Or I'll just take a little break, but then it turns out to be an hour. So it
Right.
just helps when you make it more structured. So it's like I have to work for this 20 minutes and then I get a guaranteed 10-minute break or something like that.
Gotcha. Oh, that's really good. Yeah, especially those breaks. And there's things out there where they call it like Netflix and
Yeah.
all those other next thing you know, or some kind of social media. And you kind of
Yeah.
get there and there's that rabbit hole, right? So it's really good. So you keep the structure of saying, okay, well, I've got this amount of time, I'm gonna work for this amount of time. And you probably, it's funny too. I bet I'm gonna take a guess that when people say, well, I'm gonna work for 20 minutes and I'm gonna take a break, and even if it's for another 20 minutes, they probably set their timer for that time that they're working, but maybe don't remember to set the timer for the time they're on break. But you're actually paying attention to both, which is really good. So that's really awesome. Okay, so you look now and you see, you've spent the last 2 years, you're grade 8, grade 9, and 2.5 years because now you're in grade 10 this year. And as a homeschooler, what do you see now that's now possible for you as being a homeschooler, even though you're still doing it through a public charter school, but you're really doing homeschool? And what's possible for you now that maybe wasn't as possible for you when you were in private school?
Gosh, there's so much.
Right?
Definitely volunteering. I'm able to go like all day volunteer, which wouldn't be possible in a normal school setting. Or my mom gets Tuesdays off usually, and so I can take the day off to just spend time with her. Um, or I've had whenever we go on vacations or go to swim meets, I don't have to worry about scheduling time off, like being at school. I
Right.
don't have to plan it or bring all my homework with me. I can just either work ahead or schedule around the certain plans that were made.
Wow, isn't that great? So, so you're looking at how often do you guys get to travel for your swim meets? I'll come back to what I was going to ask you, but how often do you travel with swim meets?
Um, a lot of the normal like in-season meets are somewhere kind of nearby or over the weekend, so we don't have to travel too much, or I don't have to like schedule any like schoolwork related stuff. But we have had meets usually like halfway through the season or at the end of the season. We'll have a big meet that'll be like 4 days long.
Wow.
So that will definitely take some time away from school. So it's been nice to just be able to be flexible enough to plan those kind of things. Because we've traveled to places like Yuma, Arizona, or Utah, which is far away from where we're at. So
Right. Wow. I always, and I tell people this, and I don't know that we think about it because we don't notice it. It's just kind of happening in the background, right? But when you know that you've got all this schoolwork, and I'm thinking about other people that you swim with that are in a public or private school, and like in the background, it's like, okay, when the swim meet's over, you've got this report to do, you've got to get all this stuff caught up, or you've got makeup work to do, or you're missing a class, you're missing something, and you now there's a test to make up. There's all these things to come back and do. I don't know that people recognize or realize how much of that can at times impact your ability swimming
Oh,
because
yeah.
it's kind of stressful, right? And now that you're looking at like, wow, well, this is what's still coming, and instead of like having fun and enjoying and being at the swim meet and being really present to the swim meet, you're thinking about all the stuff you still have to do, and that can stress you out a little bit. Have you noticed that that's a shift for you? Has it made you a better swimmer, not having to like have that thought of like, oh, I've got all this to do when I get back?
Yeah, it's been nice to just be able to go to a meet and then just focus on the actual events and not be focusing on all these other things, especially like with the big meets. What some of my friends who don't do homeschool, just hearing them like, "Oh my gosh, I have finals coming up and I have that when I get back." And I'm just thinking, he, or you did mine. So
Right. Oh, good for you. Oh, I like that. That's awesome. Well, okay, so you're swimming, you're working with horses, you're into crocheting and cooking and all the other things that you're into, and training. You do a lot of sports training to in your dry land training, right? So when you look at the future, like college is in your future, what do you see? Like, do you have an idea what you want to major in or what you want to do when you get to college? Like, what are your plans for the future?
yeah, so I will probably go on to nursing. I'm thinking of being a RNFA, um, which
You have to
is
tell me this. I know the registered nurse part. What's the rest of that stand for? The RNFA. I'm trying. What kind of nurse does that make you?
hold on, because I'm trying to think. I keep looking it up and I can't quite remember, but
That's
I'm pretty
okay.
sure that my job's going to be a lot more around like sewing up patients after
Ah,
surgery, that sort of thing.
gotcha.
It's like
Okay.
a kind of like a nurse, but it's an advanced practice nurse.
Gotcha. Okay, perfect. So you actually be in the surgery room and helping people close things up when they wow, that's really cool. Wow, there's a lot of studying to do that comes with that. That's awesome. And so, when you're looking at that and you can start looking at universities and things like that, homeschooling is giving you an opportunity to really start to kind of hone in on what's important and where you start to want to see if how you get there. So let's say you're at that swim meet and you see one of your friends that's swimming with you, and they're in that place like, oh my gosh, I got all these finals to do, and all this stuff is like kind of like bubbling up inside them, right? If they mention to you and say, hey, Lilli, we know that you do this homeschool thing, right? What advice do you have for a young person who's interested in being homeschooled?
Yeah, so I would probably first have like just have them consider like what is their I don't know how you say that, like their work ethic kind of.
Ah, right. Okay.
Um because I just know like both me and my sister, we both did homeschool, but we're very different people. And so she personally didn't like it. It wasn't what was good for her. She thrives in public school though.
Ah,
So
okay.
I would first just consider like, what's your personality? Are you more self motivated? Or do you need a bit more structure? Are you more extroverted, more introverted? So just those kind of questions can help you decide like, is homeschooling right for me type of deal. Um, if they do think that homeschooling is right for them, then I highly encourage them to go find a homeschool.
Right. Very cool. Yeah, in California, there's so many out there, and there's some really, really great ones, and we get to work with so many out there. And then oftentimes too, for people that live in other states, what they have in their local areas, they call them co-ops. And so like a co-op is where they meet once a week and they'll have, and oftentimes it's like parents come together and it's like the parents kind of look to see, okay, well, I can teach this class and one teaches another class. And so they get to work together, and parents, it's really fun because I've been able to participate with some of the co-ops and getting to know some of the different families that come in and letting to see, especially some of the moms that come in and they want to teach something that they're really, really passionate about. They have a lot of expertise in, and they can focus in on what's really important to them as well to share it with the families that come to the co-op. So that's really good. Okay. So let's look, right? So your parents took on this idea of you being homeschooled, right?
Yeah.
What would you thank them for? What would you tell them thank you for allowing you to be able to be homeschooled?
I would thank them for their support. Um, they've definite they've definitely been very supportive. It's I don't know if my dad always understands how homeschool works, but he's still there supporting me through it. Always like asking like how I'm doing, if I'm needing help with anything. Um, so just for their support mainly, and also just the willingness to switch things around for each of their individual children. Like we
Right.
all are in different not homeschool program. We're all in different school programs, all doing different things. And so they've done an amazing job at just like making sure that each kid is doing what works best for them.
That's really great. Wow, that's awesome. So they're looking at it from what's best for you. So that's awesome. When is the last time that you came up and gave mom a big hug and said, "Thank you for letting me be homeschooled"?
I've given him a big hug, but I have yet to like give him one for letting me be homeschooled. So I'll have to do
Okay.
that.
Absolutely. There you go. Homework assignment, right? Just give mom and dad a big hug today and just say, "Hey, guys, thank you so much for letting me be homeschooled," right? And even in the middle of your day, you can take time out and do a podcast like this with me. So that's even awesome
Yeah.
too. So thanks for being able to do that. Okay, so you got Mr. J, Chico. Any shout out you have for him because he's your live class teacher in geometry?
Thank you for teaching me math.
Now, he says he's funny. I don't know. Is he really as funny as he thinks he is?
Mm, maybe.
No, baby. Okay, very good. It's just funny. I know he will get messages from him, and he just like he says, "Yeah, I'm always trying to keep everybody having a good time and be fun and learning math." And so it's just funny. So I know he thinks he's funny, but then it's always good because my kids tell me all the time. I have two teenagers, and they tell me all the time. They're like, Dad, you're not funny. You know that you're not funny, right?" I said, "But I'm funny. I mean, I crack myself up all the time. How could you not think I'm funny? I think I'm funny." Anyway, so it's
Yeah.
just it's always funny. Like we think we're funny, but does everyone else think we are? So makes it great. All right. Well, thanks for taking on giving mom and dad a big hug today and telling them thank you for letting you be a homeschooler. And thanks to all the teachers you work with at Heartland because they're awesome as well. And you can give Miss Rhodes a big shout out and tell her that we were here today, and we'll send her the clip to this when it's ready to go. And thanks for making your day work and being quite an extraordinary young lady. So super cool. Nice to meet you and hang out with you. And thanks for doing our courses and working with the ASU program as well. And what I'd like to do, if it's okay with you, as you start to make that move towards 11th grade, 12th grade, like we'll follow up again, do this again next year and kind of see how things are going and what new things you're up to. Does that sound good to you?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Well, we'll plan on doing that. So, Lilli, again, thanks for making your day work to be here. And to everybody tuning in today, thanks for being here in A Plus Parents. And we'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye.